Hey everybody, in this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show, we're breaking down Season 3, Episode 13, or 14, excuse me, Amazing Grace. All hail the King of the Dead. Let's do it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah.
The King of the Dead.
King of the Dead.
Yeah. Bringing us in to the Legends of Tomorrow After Show. This is the show, of course, that breaks down every episode of the Legends of Tomorrow, airing on CW's Monday night. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Moran.
I'm Dave Child.
I'm Lex Michael.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon.
We're legends.
We're misfits. They're outcasts.
We're not heroes.
Of course, follow us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. While you're there, give it a thumbs up. And, of course, Lacretia's got her computer up and running, which means the chat is up and running. So feel free to hop in, share your thoughts about the episode in particular, or just the series in general.
Just tell us how you feel.
Yeah. So, quick round robin before we dive into the nitty-gritty of this amazing episode. How did everybody feel?
I liked it for the most part. I thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was fun. Some of the execution was a little weird in this episode, but I liked it. I liked it for the most part.
Yeah, I'm gonna second all of that without really adding all that much. The guitar ghosts and rat funeral.
Yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff. Fun things. I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. I wouldn't have thought to put them together, maybe, but they're together. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought this episode was really fun, especially sort of like the overall theme of the episode, like how much music really does mean and changes your life, because that's not something you'd normally think of, and I like that was what this anachronism was, because they've yet to do anything like that. Yeah.
That was good. I also like how he was just, you wouldn't expect him to have the death totem. It just doesn't, it seems out of nowhere, but it also, they made it make sense with his twin, which is real. Like Elvis did have a twin that died.
I knew this because I saw the John Carpenter TV movie with Kurt Russell as Elvis.
Yeah.
So I knew the entire backstory from that.
So this really hit home for you.
Yes, yeah. I was profoundly moved. Seeing things reflected that I knew through the prism of Kurt Russell.
Yeah, even though that is a little bit of truth there, that he did have the twin brother, and that there was always a part of him in his music that he kind of had talked about with that. But it is odd that Elvis would have the death totem, and I get because he was sort of the king of rock and roll, but why not some of the idols that my parents grew up making me listen to, like Alice Cooper or Ozzy? That would have made more sense with the death totem.
Yeah, but those aren't people that would change the course of history.
Yeah, I know, but
it's just like it. I was a giant Ozzy fan growing up, weirdly, but I think it's just because it's like this guy bites the heads off bats. But it's not like he would change the history of rock and roll if something happened to him. And you could see that actually happening with Elvis.
Yeah, with Elvis, because it did start it all. I mean, or Jimmy Page. I mean, Led Zeppelin was really into that stuff, guys.
To be fair, and I know, I felt like Legends now is in the long line of time travelers who make sure to credit rock and roll to white people, but there was Chuck Berry before.
Yep.
There was like a lot of other people before Elvis. Elvis was just the first one to make it universal and make it like so it's okay for more white people to like it.
Well, and with Chuck Berry, like the thing about Chuck Berry is during the Me Too movement might not be the best time. Same thing with Led Zeppelin and some of these other things.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
it's like
But it's not like they're gonna bring Chuck Berry like, look how great young Chuck Berry is.
Yeah.
He's not a problem at all. Anyways, what's the problem?
Well, I just felt for an episode that dealt with acquiring one of the totems, which is certainly the thing that everybody's coveting for this season. It was just kind of a very low stakes episode.
At the same time, I kind of like that it was darkless. Like I kind of like having a break from them and just having them go on an adventure separate from it and finding a totem and making it about the totem, but it's also not the end of the totem because we see a little bit of what next week is going to be on. I actually watch it this time.
True.
And it's going to be a continuation of the Death Totem saga.
Because as much as I love Dark, I also feel like every time he does show up, all it is like this everybody's frozen, and then they just get what they need. And like, okay.
Yeah, there's always that like act 3 or 4 where it's like, and then the Darks show up, and they have to fight them. And this time so I was like, okay, now when is Dark gonna show up? And now they're gonna have to keep Elvis from being killed by Dark. And instead it was ghosts.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that was a surprise for me. I didn't
Guitar
expect
Ghost.
that.
Yeah, and we have been leaning on the Darks a little heavily the past couple of weeks, but it did also feel right for something where we're dealing with, one of our totems, one of our big season-long MacGuffins. We're acquiring one, and it seems like this is a lofty occurrence, but it feels also like we're at the point in the season where we're taking a breather at the same time, which is an odd juxtaposition of elements.
Right.
We're going to have the episode in particular in a moment, but before then, Lex Michael's got an important announcement.
Yeah, what you got to say,
Yeah.
Lex Michael?
Well, all right, so check it out, guys. Do you, as I suspect you may, do you want to have fun, learn, and grow in all areas of your life?
I like all those things.
Okay, well, if you do, and it sounds like you do,
I do.
have we got a podcast for you, Dave Child.
What is it? What is it?
Conversations with Maria Menounos podcast edition is hosted by our AfterBuzz TV founder Maria Menounos and drops every Friday on iTunes. Conversations with Maria Menounos features celebrity and influencer interviews along with secrets and tips on how to be better in all aspects of life, from health and wellness to career and relationships, finances, and more. Let our Maria be the big sister you never had. Just go to iTunes and subscribe to Conversations with Maria Menounos for free. Be sure to rate and comment. And when you do, when you do, Dave Child, bless you, let Maria know it was the ABTV legends who got you there. Conversations with Maria Menounos podcast edition. Check it out and blow your nose.
Yeah, and say it was those misfits, those outcasts.
Yeah, that's right.
Those
Yeah.
people.
We're not heroes.
No, not at all. Of course, we start the episode off. Got a couple different plot lines. One, we've got Mick and his rat Axel.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that in a moment. Give us a nice little touching end of the episode. But the other one is we find our young Elvis Presley going in, much like almost like the first Harry Potter film. You got to go in, being set up. Sometimes the guitar chooses you.
Yeah.
It felt very Ollivander-ish.
Yes.
Well, he also, it's as soon as he was like, you know who this guitar belonged to before? It's like, yes, of course we know. They're gonna do the Crossroads. They're gonna do. I'm blanking on his name right now, but it's the famous blues man who people thought sold his soul to the devil.
Robert Johnson.
Yeah, Robert Johnson, because he sucked, and then when he came back, he was suddenly very good, and his music's all about like being. Meeting at the crossroads and stuff like that too, those famous songs. So he's become like this historical rock and roll figure and music figure who's sold his soul to the devil. And I feel like there's a Constantine episode
Yes,
with him, right?
the acetate episode, and that's actually probably my favorite one because it has Ava from Justified in it. Like, it's a really good
Right.
episode, and it's about like this particular recording. If you listen to it, you're gonna die. It's similar, and like Supernatural has a lot of there's a whole like section of demons that are crossroad demons, and
Yeah, and they reference him too quite a bit.
So Elvis, of course, after strumming the guitar a few times, everything gets a little sparkly and bright in the guitar shop. He's giving it, takes off, and we see that
electric.
It was kind of cool. We get to see at least some anachronisms. What that does affect the Legends crew, where its hair gets suddenly very flat.
Trombone hero.
Trombone hero.
Trombone hero.
Well,
I want to
yeah.
play trombone hero.
I know. It's
You'll
like,
have
how
to-
would you do that?
Also,
Yeah.
I played trombone in high school, so I could actually be pretty good at it. And by this is the way you air trombone, and it just looks like
But what
you're
would
smoking real weird.
But what would the equivalent be, right? Because the Guitar Hero guitar is not really that similar to playing guitar. You're just holding a thing and pressing some buttons.
Yeah.
So would you just put the trombone thing near? I'm not doing that with
No,
my
you
hands.
put-
If you
you
put it
do
near your head
this.
and you
This is how
stroke
you
it with
do
the. You just stroke
Yeah,
it
you
by
Stroke
your
it
head.
to
No,
the
you
left
have-
and you stroke it to the right.
You have
yeah.
like a plastic trombone, and you essentially just go boop boop boop, and you try to hit
it's
it.
got, like,
in
buttons
spots.
on it?
It has no buttons.
Or is
You
it
have
like
to-
a bop it?
You have to hit the right notes, which is tougher because
Yeah.
there's no markings on a trombone. So you had to know basically what distance it is away from the bell in order to tell it your note.
But is there a part where you twist it or pull it?
Mine had a
Yeah.
trigger right here because I had it.
If you get a note wrong, does it go? Ah!
I hate you, Lex.
All I'm asking is, I know Tanya is out there watching. Please make a gif of Dave Chappelle
Yep.
doing his thing.
I think this is actually not that. I don't think it's that dirty. I think it just
Yeah.
looks like
It's great. I like
Yeah.
I'm weirdly French.
Yeah.
And we get to see that the bowl for Axel changed from Elvis to was it what's his name? Josh Groban.
Josh
Josh Groban,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
I don't. Josh Groban's pretty good.
I like Josh Groban.
as a
He's
musician,
funny.
but he's also like he knows how to joke about himself and he parodies himself a lot.
Yeah.
Like he was on Comedy Bang Bang and quite a few things. So it was a weird choice to make. I felt like they just were. I think Michael Bublé would have been funnier.
I would have preferred Bublé, but that's because I'm a big Bublé fan. He's Canadian mafia blood.
That sets up that Mick at some point then in that alternate dilemma says, yeah, Josh Groban's my man. Yes. So that's it, everybody.
That's my big question, right? Is in a world where Elvis was never a thing, how did Josh Groban emerge? Like, what was the line, the genealogy musically that you could track from the point where Elvis would have been to where Josh Groban was, where Mick was enough of a fan to name the rat?
I think that showed that the music that would have maintained is like crooner music. And it would have been like Pat Boone, but it also would have been like, Frank Sinatra came before Elvis.
Yeah.
So that crooner, Sinatra, Rat Packy would evolve and grow, but it wouldn't be like the rock and roll we know wouldn't be there.
Right. So, all right. So on a long enough timeline, that just becomes Josh Groban.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
It's
go.
still like Josh Groban, and maybe Josh Groban's lamer in that universe.
Maybe Seth MacFarlane decides to pursue music as opposed to animation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be great because he's an awesome singer.
You know what I gotta protest against is all the ska hate from this episode.
I tried with ska. I did. I gave it a
I mean,
genuine...
I'm not a giant ska fan, but I can at least appreciate it.
You know what? I like it in theory, right? Because I'm like, the horns is fun, but
Yeah, because I will say bands like No Doubt and Beck experimented a little bit with it in the 90s, a little bit.
Beck?
Yeah, there's some albums where he uses a lot of like horn and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I'm
okay.
like, yeah, there's a little bit of ska influence and it was fine, but like full on ska bands, it's like I would get bored really easy. Like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and stuff like that. Like they're fine, but you're like,
There you go. Lex got very Robert De Niro there at the,
Yeah.
at the ska talk.
I'm like, they're okay. You know, I'm like, yeah.
It has
yeah.
its place. I'm not like, this. Think of all the Aquabats and stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
I like it, but I get, like, after 3 or 4 songs, I'm good for a bit. That's it.
all right, man. That's better than Nate being like, God help me. if
Oh, I don't wanna,
ska
like-
comes into this room.
Yeah, I don't think we should hunt them down or anything.
Yeah.
It's not...
That's a weird hate that Nate has. I feel like he likes a lot of geeky stuff, but he's just like, ska. Though.
Yeah,
I want to know what ska fans did to him.
yeah.
Because you know in his past somewhere he was humiliated. Like he went to a ska show because he liked a girl and was humiliated at the ska show.
I just pictured all these like ska bullies that are just like, you better knock on wood.
So we find out that the anachronisms, as they look into it, they find out back there in Memphis, everything went to hell in a handbasket when Elvis started playing using the death totem. So, and everybody just left. Elvis never rose to fame, and rock and roll kind of died.
Yeah.
But given that the end, I'm going to jump to the end of the episode just so we can talk about this for a moment, because it seemed weird to me that the ending of the episode, where he goes back to the church to sing for these ghosts, I mean, it didn't feel like the legends were at all needed to be there for that to happen. Because it's not like they had to, like, build Elvis up to go back and do it. He's like,
Well,
I'm just
what
gonna
if
go back.
what if Elvis was wrong? Then they would maybe, steal up and then fight some ghosts. They don't know what exactly is going to happen. They were there to like back him up.
Well, and I thought it was also mentioned by Nate that he wanted this to be, his moment with Amaya and the music and everything. So that was why they were hanging around. And they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, yeah, we shipped that too. And they're like, we'll hang out.
I kind of felt bad for them. It was like, I guess our song is Amazing Grace now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a sexy song at all.
That's not a sexy song. That's also like every funeral I'm going to go to is now like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a real awkward funeral. Hopefully he's, sitting down.
Oh. Yeah, I was surprised about that. But it was,
Well, we find out that Elvis, of course, has one of those uncles that plays right into that stereotype.
Footloose.
Yes.
He's got a footloose uncle. His uncle's got a loose foot.
And that ties in with what Wally and Amaya are doing throughout the episode. It's basically Wally wants to use super speed to accomplish everything quickly. Amaya's like, hey man, you gotta. It seemed for somebody that wants to just go and hack history, for her to also just get on the soapbox for a moment feels like you gotta be more like a surgeon. Like I don't know. I mean, I guess.
Well,
but she also went through that experience of living her Groundhog Day, so maybe that changed her perspective and stuff.
Also, I do like how they had an episode where, because that was one of our thoughts from last week, was like, oh, now they have a speedster. I think we literally said last week, why now you could just have him go and steal the totems and then come right back. And they figured out a way to address that right away, to first have him do that and use it, literally do what we said, why doesn't he just do? And then it backfires, and he figures out he has to actually connect with people as a person rather than just use his super speed all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I liked, is like we had thought of that, and even they were like, okay, yeah, like we need to mention that this can't just be an easy fix. And
Well, they just need to because he can overuse it, and so it's a good way to kind of explain a step back.
True, but I will say that interaction with Wally and Amaya and the Uncle Footloose is pretty lame. It's just like they give one little thing, and then it's like, you're right. Here's the album.
Yeah.
Here you go. Get out of here.
Well, yes, I would agree with that.
Like, what was that?
I kind of wanted him to be like,
Yes.
I was kind of expecting that because
that would have been cooler. And honestly, it's like, they didn't really have to. Zari didn't really have to convince him very much. Yeah.
No, not at all. And I do feel like he's going to feel real bad in the future where every preacher is going to hate Elvis, because people do, religious people did hate Elvis because he was shaking his hips. He was basically pelvic thrusting and at all the teenage girls, and they couldn't stand it.
Yeah, and it really was a gateway, because then years later you get stuff like Ozzy and Alice Cooper.
Well, we did see at the beginning
The
when
sexiest of the
well,
singers.
no, it's just like, oh yeah, you thought that was corrupting your youth. Let's have these people.
When Elvis at the beginning of the episodes there at the church, and he starts singing for the congregation, and he just does that one little hip thrust while he's doing it, and if you're like, all the girls are like, hey,
Oh, hello.
Suddenly.
Looks like I believe in God.
I feel like
believe
the
in
uncle
God.
kind of notices that too, and he's kind of like, wait, what's
I
that?
believe in good.
What have I done?
There's layers going on.
Pelvic thrusting for the Lord.
Very true.
That's what she said.
Why does she need to say that?
No, that's right. So we find out the rest of the episode entails for Nate and Amaya just hanging out with Elvis, trying to capture what their song is going to be. The Jonesing and wanting to see Elvis actually perform, flirting, and he's wearing that really cool. Nate's wearing that really cool hat.
The hats on this show, though, always just A+ hats.
On point, yeah.
Ooh. You know what I noticed with Ray this episode that I haven't noticed in previous ones? He's getting some gray.
Yes.
I know,
Yeah, a little
sexy.
bit.
Ray's got some gray. It looks good on him.
Also, okay, so this is a thought that I've been having as I've been watching the show the past couple of weeks. When we first met Ray Palmer in this universe in season 3 of Arrow, I believe it was he this childlike, or has he regressed? Wasn't he running a corporation at a certain point?
Yeah, that is
definitely.
that is the thing. Is Ray in season 3 of Arrow was at least portrayed as a little bit more smarter and suaver.
Well,
I would say, and then it's like in season 4 they're like, yeah, we got to make him dumb.
You know, I think it might have happened after they messed with him in his own childhood.
Yeah.
So I think they actually changed history and regressed him a little bit by messing up his childhood a little bit and meeting himself as a child.
Oh, wow.
True, because if you had
That's
to put Legends of Tomorrow season 3 up against Ray Palmer Arrow season 3, really different characters. I don't know if that's somebody Felicity would have been like, yeah, that's a guy I want to hook up with for a little while.
Yeah, I want Ray to find someone.
I think Ray's the cutest. I'm like, even over Constantine, I'd pick Ray. That's why I'm like, I don't get the deal. I'm like, he's so sweet and endearing. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't rub off on you after a while, like, oh man, just have let's see a little bit of
That's why you date them when they have a time ship so they can leave. Like, I don't want to date anybody that's around all the time. Like, let's be clear on that. But yeah, that's cute and endearing for like 4 days a week.
We do see, of course, Mick and Axel, where
Yeah.
Axel gets out thanks to that haunted guitar. But and during the course of that, Axel gets free, but eats something that he shouldn't and dies.
This was sad. This affected me.
Was it? Did
This
it?
affected my feelings.
It only affected me at the very end.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we get to say bye to Ghost Axel. That got
That
my
was
feelings.
pretty adorable.
That Rory moment where he's like, "What's wrong?" And then like looks up and says goodbye and just has a nice little like go. That's good. But I had a few questions. One, what did he eat? What there was just poison that they had
It
laying
was some
around.
of Ray's experiments or something. I think that's why Ray felt horrible. And also, he's the one with the conscience on the
Right.
ship anyway.
So I guess he had to get up and knock that tube over, splash on the ground, and then goes down. It's like, hey, all right, I guess I'll check this out.
And two, I don't. I guess I remember him in when Ray got tiny and then had to run away from Axel. But I don't remember him in too many other episodes. So they treated him, and I do like the little like remember Axel at
that
the
was
end.
that was great. I did
That
like
was great because it's like they're treating him as a member of the team, and I was like, I don't even remember him,
Yeah, I don't either.
which was kind of fun. Why did he grow big for a second?
That I don't understand. That was so weird to me.
Did they do that to be like, oh, now they're gonna have to fight a giant ghost rat?
That would be cool.
But
Ghost Rat.
but then like shrunk down and then ran away, and it was a weird moment. It was like I think they needed to figure out a way to make him scary to kind of heighten the stakes a little bit. But then because they're like, you don't know what a ghost rat can do. I guess.
I guess, yeah, but it felt weird to me. I was like, oh, all right, you just did.
I felt like they maybe should have had him like possess someone, and then you had
Yeah,
like,
that'd have been funny.
If he would have jumped into Mick and took over.
yeah, and then he's like suddenly acting like a rat, and then like we can't control him. He's Rat Rory,
Rat roar.
McRat Rory.
And the little funeral when Ray was going to sing Sweet Child of Mine, I'm really pissed that they didn't let that happen. Because that's a song that was always part of my youth. It's like I guess Nate with Elvis. Oh, fine. It came out the year I was born, and my dad was a rock DJ, okay?
All right, well-
it's a sweet song.
So, Lacretia, put yourself in Sarah's shoes.
Yeah.
Would you have been like her? Would you be like, all right, Ray, I'll let you do this? Or would you be like her and want to be walking away only until the threat of singing comes out? That you say, all right, I'll stick around.
You know, he was really singing Oklahoma a few weeks ago. I was like, why did you do that? I would have been like, nope, Ray, you sing your little song. It was sweet.
Sing your song. I wanted Rory to burn it. To do the little
yeah,
Viking,
Yeah, I know, that's
the
what I
Viking
thought.
funeral.
Yeah.
But I like that it was like, let's put it in somewhere like maybe in the like the work area or something like that. No, we're just gonna do it right here in the middle of. We're gonna torch the desk a little bit and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just right here. just have this rat skeleton, this burnt rat skeleton in the middle of like where they eat.
But I also don't know
Like a study.
why Ray said, all right, we should have which I understand, have a goodbye to the rat. That's great. But
We
he
all
doesn't-
need this.
But he does it so briefly. He just does it for Mick and Sarah. Like, he doesn't wait for everybody to come back.
He does it for Mick.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for Sarah.
Yeah, no one else really would have cared. Sarah just happened to be there, and she's like, whatever.
He felt bad that the rat died, and he wanted to help his friend, but do it in a way that was very subtle. And he saw that it touched him. It touched Rory. He cried a little.
Well, speaking about Mick, though, because the one thing he mentions a couple times during the episode is that he hates change.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, compared to where Mick came onto the episode, the series first to where it is now, I mean, I guess it's a little bit different. I mean, we've lost Stein and Jax, and now we've got Azari and Wally. It's not, and we've lost Rip, I suppose.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
yeah.
a lot of change.
And,
There's
It's just two people.
Yeah, Luna Malfoy
the
brings
hawk
up a
girls,
good point.
The hawk people.
Yeah, they left.
I
they're
forgot about them.
They're the only original legends, Sarah, Ray, and Mick.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is new. I mean, he wasn't in the
Yeah,
original
remember
team.
Nate was even added to the mix.
Yeah.
He's not,
Season-
he's
yeah.
not a season 1 guy.
I mean, it tracks, but it is like we don't really spend time in that place, right? Like there has been a great amount of change. We don't focus on it. We seem to move on pretty quickly emotionally from thing to thing. Like next week, we're in pirate time now. We're having this other crazy adventure, so we can't dwell on the fact that things keep shifting around. So it does track that Mick would be like, oh, like, okay, yeah, what's going on? I don't like this. Things keep shifting, and there's no sense of stability or normalcy. But we don't, it feels like we just all of a sudden threw it back into the conversation somewhat arbitrarily. Like it didn't really feel like that connected to too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say we did see, and we talked about that last week too, is we finally got to see a bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We lamented about the fact that never really seen one, and now we've seen Zari.
This was a nice setup too. I actually liked Zari and Wally because they have a nice explaining away why he can't use the powers all the time, and then they do a nice setup with Miss Pac-Man because that was a bonding thing, and I didn't actually see that coming back when they're like, now we got to get the ghosts. Let's treat Miss Pac-Man proud. I thought that was a nice little tie back that I didn't see coming. And that's unusual for this show. So it was kind of a nice moment.
Yeah, I liked their whole interaction this episode. Like, it was very cute, frenzy. Like, she's also the new person, kind of showing him the ropes, telling him, you don't need to just speed around. You need to get to know things. And it made sense for her to be the one to do it.
And I like what a doofus Wally gets to be on this show. Like, I really enjoy every scene. He's just like a big, like, smiling puppy dog, and I really enjoy it. And it feels like like all of these characters, the brighter show, but even like Ray, sometimes like it feels like you see the weight of the time journey is on him a little bit, and all of a sudden now you throw Wally in, and Wally's like a little kid and he's so excited. Every bit of this is new for him. He's the least jaded to be there, so he's just going through every interaction with just wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Look at me doing stuff. This is awesome.
Ghost.
Yeah.
It's like ghosts, and it's a big smile. That's the thing, is I'm so glad that we have Wally on this show, because Kenyon Longsdale is just... He seems like such a sweet guy, and I think that really fits with the Legends, because you have Ray, but it's just like, oh yeah, he plays it so well, just happy to be there. And I feel like this show's a little bit better for that. Even though The Flash tended to be lighter, I think that this is a better fit for, just the happy to be solving crimes and playing in time.
Although when he dances, he dabs.
Yeah.
And for that, I will never forgive him.
I much prefer the other kind of dabbing.
You just the side of your mouth.
Just when you're messy.
Yes,
you
yeah.
need a little.
No, I meant the smoking kind, but
We know you meant the smoking kind, Lacretia.
Yes.
We know.
Hey, I'm telling our viewers at home that is a phrase. Yep, there's a lot of types of dabbing.
Great.
Yep.
Cool. Welcome
Cool.
to Legends of Tomorrow, where we talk about all the types of dabbing.
Yep. That's our new segment.
So Wally and Zari, when they're talking and to the Uncle Footloose, Wally
Uncle
kind
Footy.
of shares the reason that he and his father kind of met later in his life.
Yeah.
And then he left. They felt like they weren't really kind of connecting, and that he had to leave and kind of find himself. I don't know if I guess I got that, but I also felt like Joe's like just never tried to put any expectations on him.
No, I think it's more Joe's family, because he became a part of like the Wally Iris family, and he's already Barry Iris like family, and he became kind of a part of that and couldn't really find his place, so that's why he left. Not so much Joe, but it's the whole. You find out you have two siblings that are in love with each other, that they have to.
That's a little weird, yeah. And that is the thing, is like Wally didn't feel like he belonged, and it was nice that he mentioned that, because we get a little bit of a character growth moment in talking about that, because
Yeah, and I think he's starting to find his place on the Legends, and I'm curious to see where they go with him.
It is interesting at that time. I mean, certainly, and the show really doesn't dwell on it too much, but just the racism that was kind of prevalent in that time period. So it just felt weird to have that moment there in the church where you get to see Nate and Amaya, a very tender moment between the two of them, but also very weird that nobody else is saying like, wait, what the hell is this going on? It seemed kind of weird for that time period not to have something like that addressed.
Well, they did mention Zari mentions herself about her Muslim heritage, so there's a little bit pointed out, but it was kind of odd that nobody said anything. But again, in Memphis was actually pretty, I would guess.
Well, they were getting
diverse.
some stink eyes.
Yeah.
I think they were at the very beginning when they looked back and said, we're really standing out.
Yeah.
I think they were standing out as they didn't seem like they were.
They seem like from the future.
congregation.
Yeah.
What are these
Look
people?
at this. Look at this ethically diverse group of people. They must be from the future.
Yeah, and that's why it's like it wouldn't have seemed odd except for the fact that they were together. Other than that, because I was like Memphis was always pretty, even as far, that's where a lot of this rock music started. With
I kind of wish
Barry.
they spent more time
Yeah.
in that one rock club, because I felt like they could have set up that they were welcome in that church, in that community, but when they went to the rock club, they actually were welcome because more people kind of were mingling in that society. So, but, they don't have time. They have to get to the ghosts. So they can't really spend time.
Gotta get to those ghosts.
Like focusing on the racial implications of that time period. So
we talked a little bit about Amazing Grace already, about being their song, but I also feel like, has anybody ever danced to Amazing Grace?
Not quickly.
You would if Elvis sang it.
Would you?
I would slow dance to it. We'll slow dance to Amazing Grace.
I mean, I guess now looking at it, I feel like it's so synonymous with like funerals or whatnot. I just feel like, all right, who's gonna break out of dancing?
It's gonna be a nice slow dance, no grind. I wouldn't grind to it.
Oh, there's no reason you couldn't.
A gentleman.
You could like jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah, jazz up Amazing Grace.
You like jazz up, but not grind to it. That's how I judge every song I hear. Would I grind to it?
That's right.
Amazing Grace. Would not grind.
I want to see that. Just your kind of label rating various different songs.
Yeah.
Name a song. I'll say if I grind to it.
Ooh, all right. Tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree.
I grind.
All right. Right. Okay. All
Because
right.
you know why? Oh, and get to know that oak tree.
So I guess overall there's not like a lot that happens in this episode. It's a pretty threadbare episode in terms of what we've seen before in the past. So why don't we just jump into predictions and just talk about our dreams for Legends of Tomorrow?
Our dreams.
Our dream.
Well,
All right. Okay.
Predictions.
All right.
Well, we all know. Lucretia, please tell us why you're excited about next week's episode.
well, I don't know. Maybe it's because Constantine is back again.
He doesn't get a call out this episode, by the way. We did have a moment where she's like, I called up Constantine.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice.
I like that because she's like, oh yeah, I called Constantine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too because I saw the next week on, and it seems like the Death Totem takes over Sarah, and I like that because one, she's I think the only member that has died and come back to life. It's kind of hard to tell right now, but
Yes, because they all, like at the end of last year, right, they all die, but they're all basically like a different version of them from like a few minutes before that on the timeline steps in and takes their place, so that's not really the same thing as resurrection.
Right.
So I think in terms of actual resurrection, like within one vessel dying and coming back, yes.
Yeah, that's her. So she has a history with death. She's possessed by a demon. I'm glad they're not just putting the Death Totem in a box and forgetting about it. It looks like they're having they're doing a full-on episode about that and her being taken over by the demon, which they're setting up these last couple episodes.
I was saying about that box because it's Ray's idea. Hey, I've got this great, cool, quantum luck box, so we're gonna put it in. And then when we see at the end of the episode, it's just like sitting on a counter somewhere in the ship. Like that's it. That's the extent of your protection. Was just putting it in there and just we can leave it anywhere.
Put it on a shelf, at least.
Like okay.
Put it in another box.
You
Put it
know,
in one box and then put it in another box.
They made Ray dumber by going back in time, guys. We already explained this.
Yes. And that's what his childhood that made him.
That's
made
true.
him more innocent.
And we still he keeps dragging his feet about this cold fusion thing because he even gives a shout out to it this week. Oh yeah, they're laughing about saying cold fusion was going to fix this fire totem. We still haven't Ray. He still hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
I can't get to it. They got ghosts coming out of guitars.
Yeah, like they had more pressing matters.
Although we do only have, 4 episodes left?
Is it only that amount?
I think there's
this is
18.
episode 14. Yeah, there's
There's
only
18. This is so right. So they got to figure out if they're gonna use this, if they're gonna pay off the cold fusion thing. They're gonna have to pay it off within the next couple of weeks.
And do you think Rory's gonna get the fire totem?
Jax is supposed to be back in the last episode of this season. So, like, some people have speculated that he might get the fire totem and just.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how he becomes Firestorm again.
Yeah, maybe.
Is by having the fire totem.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this episode so far is just Lex's just little visuals.
Yeah, Lex has had a lot of nonverbal communication
Yes,
in this
it's been great.
episode.
Yeah,
Sorry
been
for
great.
you folks.
Sorry,
just
podcast listeners.
You're missing out
Yeah.
on 90% of the good times on the show right now.
Yeah.
Just Lex Miles.
90%.
90%.
Just that Lex smile.
So yeah, we've got 4 episodes left. We got to get together the fire totem. We've got to deal with Sarah's. I feel like next episode we kind of pretty much figure out at least the broad strokes. It's death totem, kind of wrestling with that, but
Yeah,
that thing.
yada yada yada
Yada, yada, yada. So,
well, because it's gonna take over Sarah, so they have to get Sarah back. She turns all white in the hair and gets all witchy.
Yeah, very Silver Banshee-like.
And so they'll have to enlist Constantine to help with some type of magical solution to help try and save Sarah without killing her, something.
and there's gonna be. I imagine we're all gonna see Malice get
You
out.
sound so happy about
Because
that.
that gives us reason to get all 6 totems together to use to contain him again.
I also
Right.
hope, because Sarah's in peril, I hope we get some Ava.
Yeah.
That'd be nice, and also to have Ava and Constantine kind of in the same vicinity.
Yeah, that'll be
and
funny.
this Kind of.
And is
awkwardness.
Constantine going to figure out what the like super secret thing about Ava is that nobody can ever know about?
True,
Yeah.
maybe. I'm curious to see what that's going to end up being. Maybe it's a mystical thing. I don't know.
Do we see it as a 2-part season finale? Do we see it all kind of dealt with in one episode?
Well, okay, so we have 4 more episodes?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I bet there's going to be it's maybe a 2-part at the end. We haven't really looked forward on the synopsis.
No.
But probably people already know.
Because do you feel like there's enough story to justify like a 2-parter? Because I feel like last season when you had the whole Legion of Doom, there was a lot of characters in play that I feel like, oh yeah, doing like a 2-parter.
Well, I
you
want
kind
them to use Grodd.
Right. Like I had
Yeah.
that thought this week also that like there was not even a wink in that direction again.
Yeah, there needs to be Grodd, and we're going to deal with Malice.
And we haven't seen Kwasa in a while. And like, yeah, I feel like I know very generally what Malice is and what Malice is doing, but I still feel like I don't know this character.
Yeah.
And like we're real close now to the end of the season, and I feel like we're pretty late in the game for me not to feel like I know that much about this
Yeah.
character.
And I don't know if John Noble's only doing the voice, or we're actually going to see him as a human, or just as like a vessel, at least for Malice.
I read somewhere that there would be some sort of corporeal form of like John Noble, like so something, because he's such a badass. But yeah. Well,
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not enough time to, because the whole thing about Kwasa and Amaya, she's got to save Kwasa, kind of turn her to the side of good. I still feel like, I don't know, do we have enough episodes left to really make me buy that swap?
Maybe,
Yeah.
because we did see Kwasa at least be a little bit like, oh, you do care. Like there was a little bit of steps forward.
But I don't like your boyfriend.
But the boyfriend. And I don't know where, and I think that what's going to happen by the end of this season is the Nate Amaya story is going to come to some sort of head. Like it's,
True.
Yeah.
The way they've kind of really beefed up their reuniting.
well, and
Yeah.
two, the fact that they mentioned something about always being together. Or there was just one line that I'm like, crap, Nate's gonna die, is what I fear.
it was this episode
Yeah.
when she's like, I love you. And we'll always have time.
Yeah.
And it was like, at least we have time. And I'm like, ooh, that means they don't have time.
Yeah, I know. I was like, there was some line. I was like, oh no, he's gonna die. No.
I don't know if Nate's gonna die. I hope Nate doesn't die. But Amaya might be stuck back in the with her back in her town.
Yeah.
Back in town.
Back in town.
Back in town. All right.
Nope.
And we did get to listen to the end of the episode. Nate gets to enjoy some of the song, the music native to her homeland.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also like how she was kind of trolling him.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could tell he was like, I like this. This is good.
And then when he has the headphones on, what did she say? She goes, yeah, and this is how I feel about your rock music.
Not an Elvis Presley fan.
no.
That's a shame.
No
Any
beef
other-
in this episode, Frank?
Nah, it was just kind of like a meh episode. I didn't get anything up to get really fired up about. Meh episode.
Great comment.
Yep.
I mean, I do like they got a good voice for Elvis. I think he definitely wasn't the actor who
No.
was singing
Yeah.
that.
No.
But whoever they got to do the voice of Elvis, they found a good impersonator for it.
My favorite actor who played Elvis was Bruce Campbell in Bubba Hotep.
I was gonna say.
That
Yeah.
did happen.
Well, we would see Jesse kind of as apparition. And we just, I don't know about that look for Jesse. Just like got the hair just kind of down a little bit. That's it.
Well, Jesse just looked like future Elvis.
Yeah.
Jesse looked like leather-clad
twins, yeah.
Elvis. He looked like movie Hollywood Elvis.
Like an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so he becomes Jesse, I guess, is what Elvis does. Also, I like how he's been making those sandwiches since he was young and not fat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised about that.
Those sandwiches are delicious.
I do feel like that
I love
is a
those.
fat Elvis discovery. I feel like once that's the moment he became fat Elvis.
No.
His mama cooked him.
Is
For
His
him.
mama
Yeah.
cooked him?
The sandwiches
true?
are not the symptom, but the cause.
Yeah.
Great.
But because I feel like, have you had one of those, Lex, those kind of sandwiches? But I feel like these days, are they really like fried in like bacon fat?
Bacon fat.
I mean, that you try to
If you
avoid
do
if
it
you want to
right.
live,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is conceptually solid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go out and grab ourselves one of those Elvis sandwiches right after the show. But before we can do that, we've got to say goodbye to you. So, as always, folks, thanks for watching. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up on the Facebook or on the YouTube channel. And everybody, thanks for hopping in the chat. If you're watching after the shows are live, feel free to comment down below. But if you want to comment, if you want to reach out and talk to any of us even after the show's over, Lacretia, where can they find you?
You guys can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet since there is only one. I, too, have a podcast. It's called Mrs. Brightside. You can find it anywhere you can find Conversations with Maria or Lex's podcast, Missing Out. There's also a podcast with all 4 of us on iTunes called Give Us Comics, guys. We talk about Robert Kirkman's Oblivion Song. And also now I have a new horror show. It's called Red Room Horror. Same thing. It is available in podcast form, but it's also on YouTube. The Red Room, your horror news source, or you can find us on Twitter at Red Room Horror. And yeah, Lex.
You plugged mine, right?
I was like, I said
think you
it,
did.
and I was like, and I'm on it this week. I'm like,
Right.
Lex is tired.
I'm all over social media at the Lex Michael and also on the Missing Out podcast, which Lacretia just shouted out. It's on Twitter at Missing Outcast and on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and Podbean. And I do it with Tara J. Miller. And we talk about stuff and we really like it. And you should go check it out. And Lucretia's on it sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
And I'm Dave Child. You can find me at mrdavechild or davechild.com. Go to davechild.com to see my newest music video where I dance with Chris Fleming to the Darling Side song, Best of the Best of Times. And I'm also on that Give Us Comics thing. Give Us Comics. Give Us Comics and we'll make more episodes of that podcast.
Hey, folks, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Happy Go Jackie. We'll be back next Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Pacific time with another episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Amazing Grace, how sweet.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.